Welcome to the Vigor Life Podcast, a source of inspiration, lessons, stories, skill sets, mindsets, and strategies to invigorate and expand all areas of your life. Let's go. Hey, what's going on? This is Luka back with the Vigor Life Podcast. Come at you straight from the airport. Pretty much I just landed like literally about 45 minutes ago. Came straight to the gym to shoot this podcast, which brings me to, something that I think is very, very important to talk about in discussions I've had this whole week, and a couple of questions that came up that made me want to shoot this podcast. And that's about non-negotiables and about what it is that you really want to achieve. So the reason I bring this up, and I'm going to kind of expose myself here first, is, all the time people say, especially now it's the new year, right? It's like the New Year's resolution. So what are, you're going to set the goals for the year, whether that's with your body, which is kind of like the most relevant for most people, but also how much money you're going to save, career, relationships, family, things like that. And, we all know, or put it this way, if you don't, here's the statistics, and don't quote me on this, but it is somewhere around there. Between 3 to 8 weeks, more than 70% of people fall off their resolutions. Might be even more, but it's a humongous number. So the point of that is that essentially, right, people are not following through. Now, there's many reasons behind that, right? I would first say, number one is like gung-ho, overwhelm. And you guys can hear the phone ringing, that's fine. So it's real, this is real stuff. This is in the office. But it's gung-ho, taking on too much stuff and then being overwhelmed and dropping off. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about today is like, making something non-negotiable. And what I'm saying by this is like, maybe you don't want it as much as you say you wanted it, right? Maybe the comfort is more important than growth. And so these are the things I had to explore in my own life when I was like, man, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then I just dropped off and I realized that either the goal just wasn't important enough for me, right? It just didn't have a deep enough meaning. For a while when I was setting goals with my body, and it was like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and that. And then a month later, I realized I wasn't following through because the goal just didn't mean shit to me. It just didn't really mean enough for me to go after it, make it non-negotiable. Now, right now I have a goal of, I'm come out and say it because I did my blood work test that, my testosterone levels and free range testosterone shot, my magnesium is crappy. I got some other things that are not good at all. And it's kind of like, a slap to my manlyhood. And so the goals that I set out for the next 90 days and beyond that, but for the next 90 days for me was to get that straight, to improve that significantly, right? So improve my health. Now, that goal is super deep to me because it's affecting my energy levels, my training, my sleep, all these different things that honestly, like I just can't go not living in more optimal health, right? But right now, getting a 600-pound deadlift doesn't really mean shit to me. Now, there's certain strength levels that I want to maintain, but I'm not going to go do a powerlifting meet. Like it just doesn't, drive my deep desires, but that does. So the question then becomes, people are like, man, I really want this. I'm really going to do this. And then something comes up and it becomes difficult and all of a sudden it drops off. So either that goal just really didn't mean it to you and you didn't explore like what matters to you, like what matters, with your family, with your kids, with your significant other, with your body, like why are you doing it? You either didn't tap into that, or the comfort, like the comfort of life of not doing it is more important than the struggle and the challenge of growth. And that's a reality check, and you got to be honest with it. And like I've constantly had to come back and say, hey, Luka, does this really matter enough? Or am I even committed to it, right? Is it non-negotiable? Like this actually ended up being like, for instance, I said, hey, I came in from the airport because it's like, this stuff is non-negotiable. There's some stuff, non-negotiable things in my businesses that I will commit to, and I will do it pretty much almost no matter what, right? Apart from some crazy emergencies and whatnot. So the question then becomes for you, like, what is non-negotiable for you? When it comes to your body, when it comes to your relationship, when it comes to your business or career, what skill sets do you want to develop more? If you got kids, what's not non-negotiable? And ask yourself that, because, with certain things in your life right now, it's non-negotiable. And hey, maybe that's, drinks with friends. Maybe it's, football on Sunday. Maybe it's whatever it may be. You will not drop it for anything. But then that shows what matters to you. right? And the reality is, these are the three, in life, I always say, hey, if you want to see what matters to you, like the most, look at where you put your time, your energy, and your money. And the thing is, sometimes that's a slap in the face, right? It's a slap in the face because you start looking at it and go like, holy crap, like I'm spending a lot of money on clothes and going out and not spending anything on education, not spending anything on becoming better, building my capacity, improving my body. But that, it is a slap in the face, but it's reality and it's honesty. And it's the only way for you to move forward. Like that, until you don't tell the truth. And, these were the hardest things in my life. And still now I face them. I'm like, I'll say I'm going to do something. And I track and I go like, shit, like maybe this doesn't really matter to me. Like maybe I'm lying to myself about where I'm at. And those are the harshest things, but they're also the things that help you grow the most, because you legitimately cannot like move past something until you don't see where you're at. Like, what is point A? Where am I at? And most of the times those things are very, very hurtful. Debbie Ford had this saying, and I can't even know it off by heart, but it's pretty much in a sense of like, your true inner commitments are going to be shown by the external actions and reality in your life. Meaning, if you're out of shape or you're not in good health, like your subconscious deep inner commitments will show that. If you're broke, same thing, right? And for me, for a long time, it was the relationship stuff. It was messed up. It was shitty, right? And I had to like explore those things, like the values of like how much I value myself, or the shame and blame of the past of the things that I've done and things like that, right? So hey, we're going deep here, but this is the reality, right? These are the conversations I have with friends, with mentors, with clients to bring to light. And these are the things that I get exposed to, going like, oh shit, man, I know this is what I said, but this is the reality. This is what I committed to, but this is what reality is. Right. And then kind of find out like what are my non-negotiables, right? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to bring it back to what I said at first. When you want to change something, because something can be non-negotiable, but you don't have to take on the world. And I'll give you an example of that, right? It could be non-negotiable and you are super committed to transforming your body and finally taking that step into changing for good and changing your lifestyle. But that doesn't mean that you have to overhaul your life by tomorrow. Right, what that can mean is doing one thing, just one thing that you're going to change in the next 2 or 3 weeks and sticking to it. Same thing with a relationship, right? Maybe it's just like, hey, I'm going to start doing date night one time a week or twice a week, non-negotiable, right? Just one thing, not everything, just one thing. Same thing with your business, same thing with your kids, same thing with anything that you want to change and transform, right? It doesn't have to be an overnight overhaul, because the reality is science shows that just doesn't work for most people, right? So look at your life, write down the things that you want to change in your life. But first, write down where you're at. Like, what is the true reality of it, right? And you can look back and say, hey, have I done this? Have I not done this? And then decide and commit to what is going to be non-negotiable that you're going to change, and create changes that you feel confident about, right? Because if I gave you a ton of stuff to do and you're not confident about doing it, guess what? You're probably not going to do it. That's how we're built. It shows what is one of the main factors in kids being able to learn is their belief if they can. So if they believe that they can learn it, they actually will. They'll follow through, right? But if they believe that they can't, or they're not smart enough, then they follow that path. So essentially, you want to take on a challenge that's a little bit uncomfortable. But it's not so overwhelming that it makes you stop or fall off. So that is today's episode, because I wanted to dig in, and a lot of times I'll talk about not just things that I see and pointing fingers, because a lot of times it's kind of like this, right? We should all point that finger back at ourselves when it comes to things that we're not doing, right? There's only one person responsible for the choices in our lives, and even when things go to shit and it's not legitimately our fault and it's some external circumstance, we still get to choose what our response or reaction is going to be to that. So take this opportunity to really see where you're at, and then commit and make it non-negotiable, and take the step that you're confident about performing, and then just be consistent with it. But first, you got to tell the truth. So this is probably like something I'm going to keep watching over and over. Like, I actually shoot stuff and make sure I watch it over and over to remind myself of constant growth and things where I'm being stuck. So If you're subscribed to iTunes and you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you go over to YouTube and subscribe there so you can see me using my hands a lot. I'm like my mom. I talk with my hands. Some people don't like it. Oh, well. And if you are on YouTube right now, make sure you go over and subscribe to iTunes so you can listen to this on your way to work, at home through your Amazon Echo, which I find really, really cool, or something like that. But make sure you do that now. And I will see you on the next show of Vigor Life. Peace out.